Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Western Piedmont Community College. My name is Steve Warren. I am Director of Law Enforcement Training here at the college. On the stage with me to my immediate left is Jane Cardwell, who is Dean of the Business Technology Division. To her immediate left is Mr. Richard Green, who's Vice President for Academic Affairs. And to his immediate left is John Mull, the Assistant District Attorney for the 25th Judicial District. I see a lot of instructors that are out here tonight, and I'm glad they've come to support the graduating class. There's too many of them to name, but I sure feel proud that they came to support the class. Ann Lale, my assistant, is here, and without her help, it makes it a very hard day. We've had some long 10 and 12-hour days for the last few weeks, and so have the recruits. At this time, I'd like to call on recruit William Anthony Martin for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Richard Green, Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Thanks, Steve. Good evening and welcome to the campus of Western Piedmont Community College and to this, the fall commencement exercises for our basic law enforcement training program. Tonight, we are here to celebrate with these people seated on the front row who have just completed probably the hardest program of any kind of higher education anyone could go through. Not just at a two-year college, such as Western Piedmont Community College. And we have some tough programs, if you don't believe it, ask our nursing students and so forth. Also with the senior universities, going on and getting a master's or even a doctor's degree. We usually have a little bit of time in order to do that work in. This basic law enforcement training program is set up what should be probably for one full year. Instead, it is crammed into 16 weeks. And during those 16 weeks of having to change their lifestyles and bear down with the skills, knowledge, and the study that has to be done. And since most of you that are here tonight are friends, acquaintances, family, loved ones of the ones that will be graduating, you know the sacrifice that they've had to make. That is a very, very tough road for some students to have to go through. Top that off with the fact that today, this morning, you have to sit down and everything you learned in those 16 weeks, you put it on a piece of paper and you either pass or you fail. No in between. As usual, and I'm saying this very much in a bragging state, Western Piedmont Community College had 100% of its students graduate. And when the statistics come down, if they're like they usually are, we will have one of the top classes of anywhere in the state as far as what our students scored on that examination. That makes us very proud of it. Steve does a good job. These students will be leaving tonight. I understand some of them are even starting to work as early as tomorrow. We're grateful that we play a part in preparing and training the people of Burke County and surrounding areas for employment. None of that is any more important than the ones that will be graduating so that they can become law enforcement officers either in this area or somewhere hopefully in the state. For that, we're most gracious to you. Thank you for being a student in Western Piedmont. We'd also like to welcome you back to take some additional advantage of your life. Again, welcome to the campus. Thank you for being here to help us celebrate a major graduation, a major step in the lives of the people here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Our program speaker tonight graduated from Wake Forest University in 1972 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. He was ranked number 5 out of a class of 550. In 1977, he graduated Wake Forest University School of Law and began practicing law in mortgage and concentrating in criminal law and domestic cases. He has been past secretary and treasurer for the Burke County Bar Association. He is the immediate past president of the 25th Judicial District Bar Association. He's involved in numerous civic groups within our community. He served for 2 terms as board member for Burke County Public Education. For the past 12 years, he has served as alderman and mayor pro tem for the town of Glen Alpine. In 1997, he was employed as assistant district attorney prosecuting criminal cases in Superior Court for the 25th Judicial District. For many years, he has been a friend to law enforcement and a personal friend to me. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assistant District Attorney John Mull.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank Steve Warren for the invitation to come speak with you tonight. And I want him and all of you to know that I consider it a high honor indeed to be able to come and offer a few remarks to a group of people about to embark upon an exciting and demanding career in law enforcement, a career which I feel has to be one of the most exciting but yet most exasperating careers known to man. And you're going to learn much more about that as you start your careers in the days to come. Steve tells me that most of you are local folks from local families with plans to pursue your law enforcement careers with local agencies here in the 25th Judicial District. As you probably know, the 25th Judicial District is made up of 3 different counties: Burke, Caldwell, and Catawba. Now, as you start interviewing and deciding where you want to work, you might think that these 3 counties that share the common borders and lie so close geographically are pretty much alike, and that working in one would be pretty much the same as working in another. They have the same general geographic area, the same demographics, the same type of people, and you might have the notion that being an officer in Morganton is the same as being an officer in Lenore, the same as being an officer down in Hickory. But let me assure you that that's not the case. On the surface, that might appear to be true, but there are some significant differences between the 3 counties and between the law enforcement agencies in the 3 counties. These differences are perhaps best illustrated by a story told by our Chief District Court Judge, Oliver Noble, who's been holding court and hearing cases in these 3 counties for the past 25 years. Now, according to Judge Noble, as he tells this story, you can tell the difference among the people and the attitudes of these 3 counties by how they react to being stopped by a traffic cop. Now, this story I'm about to tell you is Judge Noble's story, so if you find it amusing, he gets all the credit for it, and I'll go back and tell him how funny you thought it was. Now, if you don't laugh, what I'll do is I'll go back and tell him that this new bunch of cops doesn't have a sense of humor. So, listen close. Judge Noble tells us that in watching cases for the last 25 years, that he has observed some differences among the 3 counties, and that you can sort of categorize it or get a feel for it by how the people of the 3 counties react to being stopped by a traffic cop. Now, first of all, he says in Catawba County, here's how it'll come down. The officer will be out patrolling on the road. He'll see an offender, turn on his blue light, and the motorist will immediately pull to the side of the road, turn off his car, and wait for the officer to approach the window. The motorist in question answers every question that the law enforcement officer asks him very politely. It's always yes, sir, no, sir. He takes his citation and then thanks the officer for doing such a fine job. Then he'll immediately take his ticket, go straight to the courthouse, and pay it off. That's how they handle things in Catawba County. Now in Caldwell County, same situation. The officer will activate his blue light, and the motorist will proceed to drive another mile, maybe two, and thoughts are going through his mind of, now why is he picking on me? I was just moving with the flow of traffic. I hadn't really done anything wrong. And he'll drive a mile or two, thinking maybe I ought to run, maybe I ought to stop. But he'll finally pull over. He's in Caldwell County. Now the officer will come to the window, and the motorist will be surly and mad at him and himself and the officer for being stopped. He'll go ahead and accept the citation the officer gives him without comment, but he'll refuse to sign it when the officer asks him to. He'll take the ticket home, go in, kick the family cat, sulk about it to his wife for a day or two, cuss and fuss, be all mad and upset about it, but he'll take it down to the courthouse and he'll pay it off. Now you come to Burke County. You've got the same scenario here in Burke County. You've got the officer behind the offender. The officer activates his blue light, and the motorist will pull off over the side of the road and stop. Now, the officer exits his vehicle thinking that it's going to be a stop sort of like I described in Catawba County. But the officer will exit his vehicle and approach the subject's pickup truck. As the officer comes to the driver's door, the subject rolls down the window, calls the officer a vulgar name, and then takes off spinning, throwing gravel and dirt in every direction. The officer runs back to his car and gives pursuit. The Burke County boy then drives as fast as he can, as far as he can, until he either wrecks, runs out of gas, or his old truck just gets hot and quits. The car chases up. The officer pulls up behind him, and then the Burke County boy exits his vehicle, and then he'll get out on foot, and then he'll run as far as he can, as fast as he can, until the officer catches him and takes him down, or until he just runs out of air because of all those Winstons he's been smoking. Once the officer catches him, though, then he and the officer will start to scuffle, and it turns into a real fight. And the Burke County boy will fight as hard as he can, as long as he can, until he's finally subdued and taken into custody. Then he gets all of his tickets that he's earned for all this behavior. From there, he goes home and tells Mom and Dad about it. He goes straight to Mom and Dad's house and tells them the whole story. Now, Mom and Dad love Junior, and they're just convinced that this whole thing is clearly some pinko police plot to pick on and persecute poor Junior. So, Junior will whine around there, and they'll loan him the money to go hire the best lawyer that he can, and they'll get the best one that they can afford to go to court with. Now, in district court, the lawyer will try the case as long as he can, as hard as he can, until the judge finally finds him guilty as charged on all counts. Then, though, they'll appeal, take the same case to Superior Court, where again, they try the case as long as they can, as hard as they can, until a jury finds the boy guilty. And then, finally, guess what? Only then does he take his call sheet and tickets downstairs to the courthouse and pay his ticket off. Now, this is 8 months and $5,000 later than it was in Catawba County, but that's some of the differences. At least that's what Judge Noble said. Now, just as there are and always will be differences between being a lawman between the counties, there are also vast differences in now and then. Vast differences between not only the different counties, but the different times, the different eras of law enforcement. And I can tell you from my experience that there is a significant difference between being an officer now in the 1990s as opposed to the 1970s when I first began working in the criminal justice field. One of the big differences is the cops who are now pursuing that as a career versus the kind of officers that we had back in the 70s. That is, what type and caliber of person goes into law enforcement as a career in the 90s as compared to the 1970s. The 90s officers, of which you are a member, are truly the members of an elite group, as I perceive it. To illustrate the point that there is, in fact, a difference between the officers of the 90s and the officers of the 70s, let me tell you a little story, again, about myself. This is something that very few people know about me. I doubt if even Steve Warren, or I don't believe I've even ever told my wife this story. But back in the 1970s, when I finished Wake Forest with a degree in psychology, I studied a lot about abnormal psychology, criminology, sociology, penology, and a lot of other ologies concerning aberrant antisocial behavior in criminals. At that time, I was young and restless and tired of going to school, so I decided that I wanted to be a law enforcement officer. I wanted to be a policeman. That became my career goal. I mean, where else could you have a job where you drive a fast car, carry a gun, get to give people orders, and get paid for it? I mean, that was a young man's dream back in the 70s. So I decided that was what I was going to do with my career. So in 1972, I gathered up my resume, got a transcript of my college courses, pinned my little Phi Beta Kappa pin right here on my left lapel, and I went to see that Billy Joe Hamrick that worked down at the city of Morganton as a police chief. I was going to ask him about a job. Well, I didn't even get to talk to Billy Joe Hamrick, but I did get to talk and was interviewed by one of his top lieutenants, who I won't name because some of you boys still know him. But I did get to talk to the lieutenant about a job. Now, basically, the LT looked me over, asked me a few questions, decided he wasn't impressed, and suggested that I hunt for another career. I was a little disappointed when I asked him why he wasn't interested, why he wasn't impressed. He told me that I was overqualified. Now, he went on to explain the city of Morganton's hiring criteria in 1972. And in explaining that hiring criteria to me, he said that the city of Morganton was looking for, and this is almost an exact quote, he said, we're looking for some big guys who had an established reputation for being able to handle themselves in tough situations. Well, now, at that time in 1972, I only weighed about 175 pounds and certainly did not have the appearance of being a tough guy at all. So basically, what the lieutenant was telling me was that I was too small and too smart to be a cop for the city of Morganton. He wasn't interested at all in my education or my ideas, in what courses I had taken or what grades I had achieved. Nothing was said about my being intelligent enough or educated enough to be a policeman, but it was clear to him that I wasn't big enough or bad enough to be a policeman here in the city of Morganton. And y'all remember those, Steve, that was back when they had Don Jameson, Dick Austin, and Bill. So those guys. So I was about a midget compared to some of the policemen that they had back then. Now, as you can tell from that story that I just told you, it was a whole different world back then. There were differences in what a policeman was expected to do, how he was expected to act, how he was expected to look, and even who and what he was supposed to be. Also, there were vast differences in what would be tolerated or even overlooked in a policeman's behavior back then. Let me give you another example from my own personal experience. Now, when I couldn't get a job as a policeman, crushed as I was, I decided to go back to law school. Good second choice. I went to law school at Wake Forest and got out in 1977 and came back to Morganton to begin practicing law. One of my very first clients was a black guy named Aaron, who, by the way, has subsequently been shot and killed, but that's a whole different story. But anyway, old Aaron came up to my office with a whole fistful of pink warrants and indictments charging him with about 20 counts of breaking and entering and larceny. He sat down there in my office. I started out in the old Irvin building there, sitting in the very same place where Senator Sam Irvin started his career practicing law all those years ago. So I was sitting there in Sam Irvin's office, and this black gentleman came in, sat down, and started telling me a tale about how he was sitting in his living room one night when two detectives from the sheriff's department came bursting in, threw him down, cuffed him, and dragged him out to their police car. He thought they were just going to the police station to answer some questions, but instead they drove him out behind the little old car wash that used to be down near where the ABC store is located now. Then, according to Aaron, one of the cops got out of the car to stand guard, stand watch, and the other one opened the back door where he was sitting. That cop pushed him down in the seat, put his knee in his chest, grabbed his throat with one hand, and stuck his revolver up his nose with the other hand. At that stage, the officer told him to start talking about all those breaking and enterings, or he was going to shoot his head off, and claimed that he had attacked them and was resisting arrest, and he had to kill him because he was resisting arrest. Aaron said that he was so scared at that time that he wet his pants and confessed everything that had been asked about, and even some of the things that he hadn't even done. He was confessing anything they wanted to hear. Now, I was just out of Glen Alpine in Wake Forest, and I'd never heard a story, such a wild and woolly story as that, in my whole life. It didn't make any sense. Now, these detectives were people that I knew, men that I had talked to, that I'd seen in court, men who had families and who went to church on Sundays, men who I thought I respected. And Aaron's here telling me that they rousted him out, taken and stuck their gun up his nose, and made him confess to a bunch of things that he didn't even do. I just couldn't believe that they would do the things that Aaron had said. Plus, old Aaron had a pretty bad reputation himself, and he wasn't the most credible person in the world, so I basically just blew off what he was telling me. We went ahead, worked out a plea on his cases, disposed of his cases, and I didn't think much more about it at that time. I mean, police brutality, coercive interrogation of prisoners, assaults on a man whose hands were in handcuffs. Nah, that just wasn't the kind of thing that was going to happen around here. That wasn't going to happen here in good old Burke County. I just didn't believe it. But boys, I want you to know, about 3 or 4 years later, after Aaron got himself killed in another shooting that didn't have anything to do with the law enforcement officer, about 3 or 4 years later, I was at a Christmas party about this time of the year with one of the detectives that Aaron had been talking about. Everybody was drinking, the detectives that had had a drink or two, and he started telling war stories. And lo and behold, old Aaron's name came up because Aaron had just got himself shot and killed. So everybody started telling a little story about Aaron and the time that they had arrested Aaron and what they'd seen Aaron do in the past. So the detective then proceeded to recount there at a Christmas party, act drunk, about how one night he and his buddy had arrested old Aaron, cuffed him and stuffed him, took him to the car wash, stuck his pistol up his nose, and made him confess to stealings all over Burke County. And everybody at that party just laughed and laughed. Everybody but me. Because right then and right there, I realized that old Aaron had been telling me the truth all along. After all, didn't believe a word of it, but there it was, coming out of the very mouth of the man who had done it. The point of all this is that things like that happened in Burke County. We don't like to think about it, we don't like to admit it, but they did. And things like that could still happen in old Burke County if we let it. The real shame of it was that back then it was tolerated, maybe accepted, and maybe even encouraged. That's the shame of it all. It was certainly overlooked by other good people with a wink and a nod, and with the underlying attitude that the end justifies the means. I'm happy to say to you that the two men I'm talking about are no longer law enforcement officers, and I really don't think that such is going on in any of the Burke County agencies today. I hope it's not. If I ever find out that it is, I'm in a position now, I'll prosecute it. I don't have to sit back and listen about it, hear about it. I'm finally in a position where I can do something about it. Hope it's not. I don't think that it is. But it will be up to you and those like you to see that it never does happen again. Each of you needs to vow to your society, to your fellow officers, and to yourselves, never more, never again will we permit our judgment to lapse and our standards to slip so that there are other situations like old Aaron's, other situations here in the place where we all live, situations where citizens become victims at the hands of the very people who are sworn to serve and protect us all. That duty falls squarely on your shoulders. the new officers, the elite officers, the officers of the nights. As each of you goes forth from this night and this place to pursue your careers in law enforcement, there's good news and bad news that you will carry with you and have to contend with. First of all, the good news. Law enforcement today is by far a better profession and a better career than it was 20 years ago or ever before. All the departments and agencies that I'm familiar with are better than they were 20 years ago. The Sheriff's Department, the State Highway Patrol, the Morgan Department of Public Safety, Drexel Police Department, the Glen Alpine Police Department, each and every one. The whole group has better facilities, better equipment, better training, better benefits, and better pay than they've ever had before. And they're attracting a higher caliber of people, a higher caliber of young officers than they ever had before. The officers themselves are smarter, better educated, better trained, and overall better prepared to serve the mandate to serve and protect. I am convinced that today there are fewer rogue officers, fewer problem officers, and more truly dedicated law enforcement professionals than ever before here in Burke County in the 25th District. Now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that's not true everywhere. Just read your newspapers about the outlaw cops of Miami, of New York, of San Antonio, of Los Angeles, and even closer to home of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and of Monroe, North Carolina. We're all familiar with the predicament that Officer Griffin has gotten himself in down there. And that's just part of the bad news that you will carry with you. You will be called on in your jobs to serve a society and to do your duty as an officer in a tougher environment than ever before in our history. Today there is perhaps more distrust and less respect for our professions than ever before in history. Now, this is partly due to a number of societal and sociological factors, including the well-reported so-called decline in family values and the increasing factionalism in our society as a whole, with groups like those at Waco and Ruby Ridge, with the separatists, the skinheads, the neo-Nazis, etc. That, combined with the reports of the bad cops, which I previously referred to, that appear in nearly every week on the news or in our papers, combine to create a really harsh environment in which you'll have to be practicing your profession, which you'll be required to perform with honor and dignity. As you go out and begin your jobs as officers, you will be met with certain dichotomies that will be hard to understand and perhaps at times hard to accept. You will find out there that there will be a number of people who you will encounter in the performance of your duties who will respect you, honor you, trust you, obey you, and even envy you just because of the job you hold and the uniform that you wear. But there will also be others, another large and vocal group who will despise you, disparage and insult you, hate you, and even wish you harm for the very same reasons, for nothing more than the job you hold and the uniform that you wear. Despite all this, I must confess to you this evening that I'm a little envious of you and of the adventure that you're about to set upon, both individually and as a profession. You are among the very, very few professions who will, during the course of your careers, truly have an opportunity to make a difference, both on a large scale with society as a whole, and on a small, on the human, personal scale, the personal level. In a very real sense, ladies and gentlemen, as law enforcement officers, you're about to become part of something much larger than yourselves, and it will become very much a part of you. It's a fine and noble thing that you're setting about. Just look at the words of your law enforcement code of ethics, the pledge that you will take before becoming a law enforcement officer. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and properties, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. I will never act officiously or permit personal feeling, prejudice, animosity, or friendship to influence my decisions. I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. As I review the noble words and phrases of this code, they echo in my mind and touch the innermost chords of my heart. These are words and promises indeed that touch the very soul and make a person's chest swell with pride. Remember them, recite them often. These noble words are just about a perfect definition of the concept of honor, which should be the highest aspiration of us all in the pursuit of our professions. Honor, what is it? Honor is that gift, that precious gift that you give yourself each and every day of your life by the way that you act, the judgments that you make, the way that you treat your fellow man, and the way you regard and respect yourself. Go forth then and remember the words of your code of ethic and the simple mandate of your office, to serve and to protect with honor and with pride this day and evermore. Thank you.
You must go back and think about this, and we will do this again tomorrow, and you vote again. I can give them credit. They hold to their beliefs. The next day we have another time. So we had to honor two of our outstanding instructors. All the instructors we have here are